Hello and welcome to a webinar of OpenLM. I'm Sagi and we have with us Chen and Branislav. Now we will present OpenLM and embedded and advanced license reporting. But first, I would like to give the stage to Chen to give us a few words before we start. Chen, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Chen. I'm from the sales team for Australia and the Far East. Welcome to this webinar. We take this opportunity to show you how to use OpenLM for managing your engineering software licenses. Together with us is Sagi, our support engineer, and Branislav, who is VP support and services. And let's start because we have a lot to show and short time to do that.
All right, so let me kick it off before I give the floor to Sagi to actually do some nice slides and showcase the system live in demo. So as Chen introduced me, my name is Branislav. I'm leading OpenLM support and services. And we would like to welcome you here today. And before we actually start showcasing the product and start showing you what it can do, I would first like to have a couple of words why it's important, why we invited you to here, why should you care about us, why should you care about OpenLM as a product, why it's so important. We are living in a world where software assets are becoming more and more a prevalent topic within the organization. And whether you are talking about a small company or medium-sized company or a large corporate business, carefully managing your software is actually extremely important. And what OpenLM does is it focuses on a very specific portfolio within the software that you are using within your companies. Like even beforehand, the standard software asset managers knew that looking at the big software providers like Microsoft or IBM is extremely important because these softwares are extremely expensive, and when it comes to compliance, they can actually be very sensitive, because if you get audited and you don't have your software in order, you can pay hefty fine. But in the past couple of years, the engineering applications had also come to a forefront, because if you have a manufacturing company or a designing company that you are using PLM tools, CAD software, you are designing, drawing, these tools can be, again, extremely expensive. And recently the SAM managers actually started to look at this, because if you go to your company and you compare your key software spenders, and like I said, you are manufacturing or you are designing, you will see that some of the key players in the field, like Dassault Systems or Siemens Corporation, are among your key spenders. And OpenLM is a product that is very specifically designed and tailored to actually help you track the usage of these licenses, see how you are doing, making sure that everything is in order, making sure that you are not over licensed or you are not under licensed. So you can actually optimize the cost, you can optimize the software, and at the same time, you can also make sure that you are using everything effectively and that your day-to-day engineers can actually work properly. And with that, I would like to move the floor to Sagi to actually showcase you a little bit about OpenLM and how it helps you optimize your license portfolio.
Thank you very much, Branislav. So just for you guys to know, Branislav used to be a client of OpenLM. Now he's working with OpenLM, so he has much more insights that he can share, and he will share during the presentation. But let's see what OpenLM is and how it actually operates. So, as Branislav mentioned, you might have many different types of engineering applications, such as Siemens, Dassault, Creo, SolidWorks. Now, these different applications have floating licenses usually, which are hard to track. Now, OpenLM helps you to track those floating licenses, all the different licensing models that come with those engineering applications, and provides you with comprehensive reporting, statistical analysis, and basically everything that you need in order to understand what's going on in the environment of your engineering licenses. Now, those floating licenses, as I said, are dispensed to end users via a license manager. Now, there are many types in the market. There are hundreds of license managers. OpenLab supports over 50 types of license managers. Now, you'll see all the different market leaders, FlexLM, Loom, HASP, RMS, RLM. Now, we've added a few more lately. Now, we got Altair, Hardlock, Unisim, Houdini, and we keep adding more and more as time goes on. We even got Zoo, which is a very popular one. Now, all these license managers are monitored under one roof. That means you have one interface to view and monitor and get reports on all the different applications, all the different license managers. Doesn't matter which technology it uses, you'll have it in the same place. Now, OpenLM will help you to automate the system. You can start, stop, reread licenses on those license managers. You can control remotely, and you don't have to RDP to that server specifically. If you want to modify the options file, you can do it using the interface. You want to upload a license file. But OpenLM also helps you to automate the system because you don't want to keep checking every hour what's going on. So you can get notified on certain events. A server goes down, someone is using the application for too long, a license is about to expire, many different options, and you can get notified on it. Now you can automate the system even more and get reports sent to your email on a schedule. Now, as Branislav mentioned, we do this in order to help you reduce spending and increase your license availability. So once you know which licenses you have, what licenses you are actually using, how well you're actually using them, well, you can tell how much money you can save, how much you're spending on it, how well you're using it, and how much you can save. Now you can increase the availability of those certain licenses. So you'll have the same licenses, but more available for more users more of the time. Now with that comes a great deal of compliance. That means you know exactly who's using what from which server for how long and basically everything. So you don't have to worry about the next audit. You'll have everything already sorted out. All right. So what goes where? How is it deployed? The basic deployment, you got the OpenLM brokers on the license server. Now you might have many license servers, different vendors on each one. Let's say Matlab, Autodesk, Katia. And all of them are monitored by the broker, which sends the data to the OpenLM server. This is the central component where you get the interface, where you get the database and everything. Now, before I move on to the interface itself, I would like to give the floor to Branislav and maybe share a few problems, issues, and hardships that a typical client of OpenLM, which is trying to monitor his licensing environment, before having OpenLM, what are the different hardships that you encountered? So, Branislav, maybe you can enlighten us?
Yes, and I will be really short, and I'm not going to focus these few minutes on actually talking about reporting and optimizing the licenses, but to more focus what Sagi showed in the first slide is where he was talking about monitoring and the automation. So whether you are a single IT guy who is also the license manager for a company of 10 people, and you are only using 2 Autodesk installations, still you have to do the day-to-day management. Or you are working in a big corporation where you have a dedicated license manager, and you have a dedicated DBA and the database administrator, and you have a dedicated team who is managing your license servers. uh, these are all resources that need to spend time. So whether you want to make a simple change and install a new license key, or like Sagi showcased or spoke about editing an options file because you want to reserve some licenses for your Autodesk or for your Dassault, usually unless you are working in an environment that's not really tightly secured and you have access everywhere, you need to engage these different types of internal resources. Or in case you being the single administrator, you need to engage yourself as the single type of resource, go to the license server, connect that manually, swap the license file or edit the options files. These may seem like simple things when you have to do it once a year, but if you are doing this periodically, you are taking up your time, or you are taking up time from your other departments. So this is already where OpenLM comes in handy, because it can automate a lot of these things, or it can actually give you a nice and easy to use web interface where you can do this basic license administration yourself without having to engaging other resources in your company, which is already time saver and by extension also a money saver. And with that, Sagi, floor back to you.
So let me show you how it looks like basically. So let's say you have a few license files that you need to upload to, well, let's say a few license servers. So instead of RDPing to that and uploading the file, well, you can just click here and you can upload the file from your PC, saving a lot of time for you and your department. Now you can also start, stop, reread that license file. Now, what you're seeing here basically is the current activity in your system. So if you set up OpenLM to monitor the license servers, the data is streaming constantly, continuous stream of data, and first and foremost, you can view what's going on right now with your system. So I see ArcGIS, I got 23 licenses. Well, let's take Autodesk for example. I see these different licenses that I have inside, these different amounts, and how many are currently using. So let's click on this one. Let's try to understand what's going on right now in my system. So currently I see that Jasmine, Tyson, Jim, Ellis, Bethany, they're all using this Autodesk simulation application. I see which group they're a part of, which workstation they're working out of, and how long they've actually been working. So it's like 6 days for Jasmine. Someone needs to go talk to Jasmine. That's just one example. But one thing that Branislav mentioned, besides that, is the fact that you can also edit the options file itself. So it's something that I'm go get into later, but you can also manage the options file using OpenLM, so you don't have to write it by text. But I'm going to get to that later on. What I want to know from you, Branislav, is the hardships that come with currently active users and what the client is looking for when facing a current activity, for example, users calling him up and so on. So maybe you can enlighten us.
So of course, the current activity is what is happening in real time, what is happening right now, and that's the first hardship of the license manager without actually having a proper system, that is monitoring. And what Sagi is showcasing you, that's actually an editable dashboard in OpenLM where you can define the critical licenses that you would like to see, or you can actually give your users access into the system, and so they can define it and see it for themselves. But that's the first hardship that can come to you. A user is trying to start an extremely expensive application, and he's unable to do so. So the first question that comes to mind is why? Why is this happening? And the real-time utilization can already show you, okay, all the licenses are booked, so that's why people cannot work. And as Sagi will demonstrate in the further reports in OpenLM, is then delving into the historical data and analyzing why are all licenses booked. Maybe it's just that simply you don't have enough, or maybe there is a certain abuse of licenses going on and you need to talk to the users. Back to you.
All right. So I see a few questions in the chat. We'll get to them at the end. Please write all the questions that you might have. We'll do a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So, you know what's going on right now in your system. Who's using it? Someone might call you up, hey, I don't have a license. You can just click it, see who's using it. Maybe call someone up, close the application. Now, as Branislav mentioned, the users might be end users that just need to see if their license is available. You can give them to that. You can give them the role to see only the licenses that they need. Now you might have managers, you might have different admins that need different permissions within OpenLM. So you can define different groups of users and group them into different roles. So each one can see a different thing, only specific for him in the OpenLM interface. So all the historical information, all the different sessions are saved in a database. You got the start time, the end time, you got what they're using, the duration, which group, which project, everything. And there's something else that OpenLM can do, but using extensions, is also show you the idle time of that application. So not only if it's being used, not only if it opened, but also if it's actually being used. But more on that later on. So you can, for example, group the data, see that, oh, this triad, I have most of my usage there. And then you can start to dive in. You can drill into the historical data, to the statistical reports, and get the analysis and insights that you need. So just to show you, I'm going to open another interface here, just to show you that OpenLM can scale up dramatically. Now, this is a client database that we got permissions to anonymize, to anonymize and present. So what am I aiming to show here is 205 different license managers, many different types, DSLS, FlexLM, LMX, BetaLM, all under the same roof, looking the same, basically having the same interface, same controls. So they all go into the same reports as well, because it's all floating licenses. So if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, Branislav, but one of the main hardships, one of the main issues that a license admin will face is actually knowing if the licenses are used correctly. Because if it was just a named license, then you got one user, he's got one license, that's easy. Is he using it or not? But if it's a floating shared license, well, you need to get more insights and get a calculation of the maximal concurrent usage, the maximal seat count. So if we take a look at this, for example, I see that this is the concurrent usage and this is the quantity of licenses that I have. So I have 70 licenses and I see that maybe 64, 65, it even peaked at 70 users using the application at the same time, but it was rare. So let's say you open up the application, the report for a full month or a full year or something, and it kind of looks like this. Well, right off the bat, you know that you're wasting money on a lot of licenses which are never ever used and are not going to be used. So next time, you don't need to buy them. Now, if you open it up and it looks like this, well, it's much better. you see that you're close to the amount of licenses that you have, not peaking, leaving some room for other people to join, giving you a good indication of the health of that license. Now you can get it as a chart, you can get it as a table and export it to Excel if you want. You can get it as a heat map as well, where we can see the days of the month on the left, and on top we see the hours of the day. So basically, we see that this server, for example, most of the operation is 7 until 4, Monday through Friday, which makes sense. It's a local license server. If it's a global one, you'd like to see pretty much orange or red all across the board. Now, at certain points here of the graph, we got even users which might have gotten denied because 70 out of 70 licenses used. So probably users tried to get licenses and got denied. But how bad was it? OpenAlarm can tell you with the denials report. Basically, you can see the amount of denials that you had for each user, for each application, for each day, whatever you want to aggregate by, and show the data that way. Now, of course, you have everything in table form, which you can export. But one thing to note is that OpenLM will aggregate and show you all the true denials. Now, you might have a user that gets denied. His application tries to go to another server, and gets the license. Well, the first denial here is not something that you should care about because he got denied and boom, got the license. So that's not really a true denial. That's a false denial. Only if he got denied, doesn't matter what he did within that minute, he got denied, then that is a true denial. And we can show it like that. If I untick this, we see it goes up to like 48 denials. And if I tick this, it's like 26 denials. Showing you exactly how bad the situation was even after it was maxed out. Now, before I move on, I would like Branislav to enlighten us on the usage of these reports and how it helps the client actually cope with procurement of licenses.
Yeah, so for the many years that I used OpenLM, I always in my head named the license usage report actually what is happening. This is showing you what is happening and what has happened. It's like Sagi says, it's showcasing you the health license, and is the primary point when it comes to software renewal. And you are actually talking to the vendor about reducing maintenance, or maybe you need to increase your license count. You are talking to all your internal stakeholders. You are investigating. So what is happening, guy? Let's have an example like Siemens NX, one of the primary CAD design applications. You are looking at this graph that Sagi is just presenting, and from this graph, actually, you can see that it is hitting the peak, but it's only happening not very often. So now you have several things to do. You need to talk to the internal stakeholder. You need to talk to the business, who is actually the primary user of the application. See, what is the outlook for the next renewal period? Are you going to increase your number of engineers? Are you going to decrease your number of engineers? Once you have the answer, and of course you show them this graph, you also need to do the investigation when the graph is peaking. So there are some denials, but are these denials real? Are actually all the users working? Are all the users consuming the license, or is there something happening on the back end that you cannot see from the license usage report, because it cannot tell you about things like license abuse or duplicate usage of licenses? So before you actually kick off the license renewal, you need to do another further investigation, and this is what Sagi going to show you right now, and that's the license activity report, which I always dubbed in my head is not what is happening or what has happened, but who is behind it. Who are the direct people who are behind what is happening? So Sagi, please show with the license activity, and then I'll comment why is that important and what can happen.
All right, so there you go. You got the license activity report. It's basically a table of all the different sessions that you had within, well, what time span you choose, and you can of course group it by, as Branislav mentioned, by the user and see who's abusing the application and who's not. For example, Curtis here or Jasmine, I see they are heavy users. So they might be leaving their application open and so on. But Branislav can enlighten us on the use cases in the real world.
Yes, because this is exactly what is important with the concurrent network license model. Like Sagi told you, if it's a named user license, then it's pretty clear. You know, the license is assigned to a single user, and it doesn't really matter in the end if he chooses to use it 24/7. That's perfectly fine. But with the concurrent license portfolio, with the network concurrent licensing model, the general idea is actually that you don't have as many licenses as you do have users because you are trying to optimize. And when optimizing, you also need a certain degree of discipline coming from the users, because if I have a license, specifically if it's even if it's licensed with a single usage scope that's defined for your country. So let's take India as an example. So you have an India in-country license that is pretty expensive. It can be used on your premises in India by all your users in India, but the assumption is that hardly users work the full 8 or 9 or 10 hours that they spend in the office. And that's why the concurrent model is advantageous, because when one user stops working, another users can take in, and you can do a lot of analysis with OpenLM's data. Maybe you do have multi-region licenses, like let's say you have a license that can be used at the same time in America and in Asia Pacific or Asia China or the complete Eastern region. Like with this license, you definitely want to achieve that over the period of 24 hours. The effectiveness of the license is at least it serves two users. One license can accommodate 2 users. With the global license, you can maybe accommodate even 3 users. Let's say, you know, it's 24-hour global scope. So if I have my user starting in Japan and then another user speak the same license in the Europe, and then in afternoon of Europe's time when the user stops working, you can have a user working in the US. So you can actually get 3 users for the price of 1 concurrent license. In this case, when you have problematic usage, like somebody is leaving his laptop and his application open, and it creates a problem. And this is exactly why we have the license activity report to help you define. So if you see a user and you pick a time span of 7 days and you see that somebody was using the license for 24 hours a day, then you can go and identify this problem, talk to the user, make him release it earlier. Another common problem is that users actually take 2 or 3 or 4 licenses at the same time. Again, with the concurrent model, this is not something that you want to see. And the license activity with the total usage, as Sagi is just showcasing right now, is perfect to identify that. If you have a user who you know has 40 hours work week, but you can see that he's been using 120 hours of a certain license, then again, that's a very nice indicator that something is happening on the back end. And it's something you want to investigate even in your day-to-day job as the license manager, but you definitely want to investigate it before a software renewal comes up, so you can actually make a proper informed decision and only renew as many licenses as you require. With that, I'll leave getting back to you, Sagi.
Thank you. So I'll work off that. How many licenses do you require? Because Branislav beautifully explained why we need to purchase more or less licenses, but still we didn't see anything in OpenLM that gives us that concrete number that we're all looking for, I'm sure. Now we have that report, it's called license utilization. It gives you that concrete number and tells you how many licenses you actually need in order to achieve a certain quality of service. And what does that mean, quality of service? Let's say that you're an admin and you want statistically your users to get the license 95% of the times that they open up the applications. 5% of the times they can get denied, it's okay. So plugging that in, let's say 95, then the line here shows me I only need 59 licenses, not the 70 licenses that I have. So what does this graph show us basically? Let's show it unaggregated and try to understand. Let me ask you a question. Let's go back to this chart. And I'll ask you, how long did it spend on 70 licenses used. So if this is 100%, this whole line is 100%. How long was it on 70? Well, less than 1%, right? Maybe even less than 0.5%. Well, the license utilization report, if we hover over 70, will show us it's 0.07% of the time. It's a really small amount of time, which is negligible. So it got up to 70, but just for a short while, it then went down, as we see here. Not something we should take into account in our procurements. So what should we take into account? Well, what quality of service do you want? I want my users to be able to get the licenses 99% of the times that they open up the application. Well, you need only 65 licenses. Now, this way you can cut any feature that you find. You can maybe cut a few licenses that you might not be using or using very, very little in a negligible amount of time. So if I cut 5 licenses here, and this is an Autodesk application, that's like, I don't know, $6,000-7,000, which I saved right there. And I'm still giving my end user 99% quality of service. Now you can do that with anything. You got Siemens, you got Autodesk, you got Matlab, whatever. You just find if you're using it well, and basically where you can cut the amount of licenses that you have out of the portfolio next time that you renew. But something that you can also do to cut a few licenses out of the portfolio is view the licenses not in use report. Licenses not in use basically shows you which features are not being used, never been used. Now I got, let's say I select 1 year back and I see that Navisworks was just never ever used. Well, I've got 35 licenses of Navisworks, which we purchased, but nobody ever touched. So I don't need it next time that I buy it. Or maybe I see a full server not being touched. Well, I don't need that server. I can decommission that. Nobody's using that. So we can look at it at the angle that shows us how many licenses we actually need, and also from the other direction and see how many licenses we don't actually need. Now, besides that, besides the reporting part and the reporting capabilities of OpenLM, there are a few more extensions that some are pretty basic and can help you tremendously with automating the system. So let's say you want this report, you want the, let's say, license activity report or the license usage report. Let's say you want the last 7 days, every day, every Sunday in your inbox, so you can go over it. So it's really easy. You can just schedule this and you get it on a schedule to basically how many emails you'd like. Now, besides that, you can set up different criteria to get notified on. So, for example, a license server goes down. If you got a license server that goes down, people are about to get denied. You got the users using too long. You got licenses about to be maxed out. You got applications which are about to be expired, and many different options. Now, this is basically the, well, core component of OpenLM, along with a few extensions. Now, something else that OpenLM can do to help you automate the system and manage it is, of course, not only integrate the options files from your FlexLM license manager, but also deploy to that options file. So let's say I want to get viewer and I want to add a group, let's say CBS, and I want to reserve 5 licenses to CBS. Once I save it, oh, it's read only. Now, 1 second, let me just switch that.
Let's just wrap this last
Yeah.
thought process, and then we go to the QA, so we actually give people enough time to ask everything they want to.
All right, so basically you can also push the data to the license server, not only pull the data from the license server. So it goes in both ways. And that's basically it for me. This is the basic OpenLM component with a few extensions. We've gone over current activity, what's going on right now in your system. We've gone over the different reports and statistical analysis that you can get, and also basic extensions which can help you automate the system. But now let's go to Q&A. So you can just ask in the chat, in the question and answers. There are 2 panels there which you can answer. You can ask. So let's take it away.
Yeah, so I saw Jean-Louis' question was the first in the Q&A, so let's kick off that. let me answer that. So let me read the question first. If the use of software asset management is mainly used by the majority of ITs to avoid Microsoft or Oracle audits, what about software vendors like Siemens, VIA, Hexagon, PPM, or 3DS? Have you seen an increase in audits by these vendors apart from Autodesk? So the SAM is not used primarily to avoid audits. You know, the usage is always twofold. On one hand, you have the cost optimization process that you want to make sure that you actually, and it's basically what we demonstrated with OpenLM for the engineering applications with the, I call it core IT contracts. It works exactly the same way. On one hand, you are trying to make sure that you have only as many licenses as you need, and probably with some nice forecast within your environment to make sure that you don't go under. And at the same time, on the other hand, the problem is the compliance, making sure that you are actually compliant. And the compliance for engineering applications is not the topic of this webinar, and you can actually go and see I did a webinar 2 days ago about that. But in principle, it is the same. Whether we have seen an increase in audits, this is very hard to measure by us, you know, because we are not an engineering software vendor. We offer you a tool to monitor, and actually, if you would so choose, you can also self-assess yourself and be sure that you are compliant, and we can show you how. If you haven't faced an audit by an engineering software vendor like Siemens or 3DS, and you're only facing Autodesk because Autodesk is one of the primary ones that do the audit, you are lucky. You know, it all comes down to a game of chance, because imagine that Siemens or 3DS, they have tens of thousands of customers. So maybe it was just not your turn. But I would not count and bet on actually, trying to hide behind the audit. And maybe you will have luck for the next 10 years and you that don't get audited by Siemens. But all these software vendors, they have big departments, that focus purely on compliance and pinpointing the clients and measuring the compliance between the clients. So to answer the question, have we seen it? Like I said, it can't be measured, but trust me, they are auditing. And if you would like to know more about how OpenLM can help you with actually measuring the compliance, we can take that to another discussion, or you can just go and see one of our software compliance webinars. Or you can contact me directly, and I'll be more than happy to actually go into detail on this question. Sagi?
All right, so I'll take the next ones and then we'll go to the chat. How can you monitor the use of Matlab? How can you monitor the use of Matlab? Is OpenLM able to interpret the MathWorks option file? Then yes, any FlexLM options file, doesn't matter, Matlab, SolidWorks, anything, we monitor that and incorporate that into the OpenLM system, and we can also write to that using the interface of OpenLM. If the use of OpenLM is based on license files, how to take into account licenses in the form of tokens. So OpenLM monitors the vendor supplied license file. Now, on the broker component, it simply detects and monitors anything that streams out of the license manager, meaning the debug log, options file, license output streaming from the port, and everything. So all those tokens and their packaging and their expiration and amounts and everything are in the vendor supplied license file detected and integrated by OpenLM. Can OpenLM monitor idle usage? Yes, OpenLM can indeed monitor idle application usage if you spread out the OpenLM agent on the end user workstations. Then you can monitor idle application usage, but that requires an extension of OpenLM called the actual usage extension. Now, if you spread out the agents and don't have the actual usage extension, you can still monitor idle usage, but not of the application. You can monitor idle usage of the workstation itself. So that's one thing you get out of the box with the current agent with a basic OpenLM. So let's go to the chat. If we update the license file, will it show a difference in existing and new license file? So if you update the license file on the broker, on the license manager, OpenLM will detect that and incorporate that change. Basically, any features which are expired, changed, overwritten, then it will basically close in the database and create the new license file in its database. Now, we have also a rotation detector. That means if you have, let's say, debug logs that always change their names, but they keep a certain pattern, then we have the broker that follows that pattern and is able to know that this is the latest one or this is the latest one, and so on. Can we assign role and permission to PDL? PDL? Branislav, do you know what is PDL?
One of the acronyms, it was for product development and launch, but I'm not sure if this is the same one. So please, if you could elaborate on the PDL so we actually know.
So I'll just explain about the roles and permissions. You can
Yes.
set up any different, any report, any button, anything in OpenLM, you can hide or show two different users. So for example, PDL, you can set up a group of users within that PDL group and assign a certain role to that PDL. For example, just viewing what's going on currently with the applications, or what's going on currently with this specific server that they need to get, and so on. All right, let's see what else we have. Can we see denials only for maxing out peak usage, or all the denials like reserve, max, include? You see all of them. In the list and even in the filter, you can decide which type of denial you would like to see. So you don't want the reserve, max, include, all those, you just filter them out. Does it include forecast functionality, like it can tell what are the numbers we should go in renewal based on the usage trend? So you're talking about like machine learning and AI plotting of future trends. So we don't have that, but what you can do as I've shown, see how many licenses you can reduce, basically, based on your historical usage.
Sagi, just something to add. You know, the forecasting, we do understand that analyzing and providing trends based on historical usage is something that is highly requested, and you know, we are looking at this internally to see if we can actually provide it sometime in a future release. But for now, it's not included. We are definitely thinking about. We do see the potential, and we know that it's a increasing environment coming from both our current customers and future prospects.
So can we debug customer license issue based on input like user or client system? Yeah. So if you mean usage, application usage, then yes. But you're referring to license issues based on input. I'm not sure what that means. If you can elaborate. Can it show data in product number at place of feature name if you'd like to see usage? Yes. So we have in OpenLM, if you have it currently, you can go to administration, product packages. There, you can actually change the product name. So basically, whenever you see the feature, which is the code, you'll have next to it the readable name.
Also here, I would like to point out that for FlexLM, we also do support the asset ID, which in the case of FlexLM licenses can actually be the definition of the contractual obligations, that you have the same license in the FlexLM license key, but that the different asset tags are showcasing the different scopes for the license. So this is another data that OpenLM reads, and we can actually use it when you are exporting, for example, the license activity report, so you can see it there.
Next one is, can we update multiple servers for adding something in options file together in a single shot? So yeah, let's say you've got 5 servers, on all of them you got options files. Then using the interface of OpenLM, you just select the users that you want, save, deploy, that's it. So basically you'll have, let's say you got 5 different servers, you just choose those users, what you need, and deploy it. So it's all done from a single user-friendly interface. And if you got 5 servers, it will be just 5 clicks. Okay, can this help in automating setting up new server daemon as well as single fewer steps? No, it doesn't help you setting up a new daemon, but it helps you to monitor that daemon once it's set up. Can this tool provide forecast based on heat map, specific time period, days, when application are most used? Yes, exactly. So this is the main thing that OpenLM does. Can show you the amount of applications and amount of licenses used for each application out of the pool that you have. It can show you when it's mostly used in the heat map, which we've shown in the webinar before.
Okay,
Also,
Sagi, let me take some of the questions that are in the QA, because they piled up, and then we can go back to the chat. So Felix is asking, OpenLM supports FlexLM option file or does support other license managers like LMX CodeMeter? Right now, the support is there only for the FlexLM options file currently in development, and next on the menu is actually managing the Dassault Systems license manager through the UI. Afterwards, we can definitely look at LMX, since it's the next in line and the probably second most popular after FlexLM. To Jean-Louis, is OpenLM able to manage software contracts and vendor information? OpenLM cannot do this directly. However, we do have collaboration with ServiceNow. If you are using the ServiceNow SEM IT Pro to actually do the SAM for you, where you can actually import all the contractual obligations or the purchase information, then through that, you can actually create dashboards where you can tie this to utilization of engineering licenses coming from OpenLM. There is one way, and I will actually elaborate on another way in your future question regarding the chargeback. So Felix is asking, can we download the usage per user report with individual feature name? Yes, this is what Sagi showed you in the license activity report. The license activity report is basically saying it in a high level perspective, just showcasing you all the individual sessions that were created by the users. And you can group these sessions by user, by server, by feature, and or you can export all of this data to a CSV, to an Excel file, and then you can actually filter and manage it as much as you like. Is OpenLM able to help with chargeback? So not directly. However, we do have an extension. Again, you can either use the collaboration with ServiceNow, and then you can actually work on creating your own dashboards, or you can use what we call Reporting Hub, which is one of OpenLM's extensions, where you can connect your default business intelligence product. For example, we use PBI to a database created on the back end, where you can see all the data that OpenLM gathered. And then by definition of using a business intelligence, you can plug in another data sources, like, for example, your license cost. Of course, this would require a little bit of extra work on your end, but it's definitely technically possible.
All right, I'll take the next one because it's a nasty question, as you said. What makes OpenLM different from OpenIT, TMedia, Xformation, or all the other competitors? Well, I would say a few things. First and foremost, support. OpenLM provides full support with meetings, chat, phone, emails. We do it 24 hours a day. Doesn't matter where you are on the globe. We do it 6 days a week. Well, we get Saturday off. That's one. Basically, the service. But now take it with a grain of salt. I don't know what they are doing at the moment. But as you have seen, and as you can see in further webinars of OpenLM, there are many, many different extensions of OpenLM. So I'm not sure what OpenIT and TMedia are doing, but OpenLM can export your data to BI tool. It can monitor idle time and close applications automatically. It can pop up messages when an application is available for a user. It can alert you when certain criteria happen. So we got 15 different applications, extensions, which connect to OpenLM to give you many different solutions. So one main difference, I would say, is that we'll find you the solution that you need because we have so many extensions to the application. We've been in the market for such a long time, had so many questions from so many clients, where we basically have an answer for everything. We have a solution for everything. So I don't know what makes us different, but I know that is what makes us good. Uh, how would you describe your partnership with ServiceNow? So the partnership with ServiceNow, we provide the missing piece in ServiceNow because ServiceNow will provide asset information, software asset information on basically all the normal applications that you know of that has normal licensing, like Microsoft, Adobe, different cloud licenses, and so on. But ServiceNow has, well, let's say a missing piece in the puzzle in ServiceNow SAM Pro, which is the engineering applications. So basically they have everything but missing the data for engineering applications, and this is what OpenLM provides. We grab all the data from the different license managers, we compile them into one data set and send that to ServiceNow to complete the data set of the application. So now in ServiceNow, you'll have both Microsoft, Adobe named licenses, and also the floating licenses coming from OpenLM into ServiceNow. This way you have like a complete view within the ServiceNow system on your entire environment, not just floating licenses and engineering applications.
Just two sentences to fill that, and it was a very nice explanation, Sagi. It's not a comparison between OpenLM and ServiceNow. It's a symbiotic relationship. Like Sagi said, we are providing an extension to the SAM Pro, which is delivering the missing piece. And this is what how I opened up the webinar today is for many years, these big companies were focusing on the strategic IT contracts. Like, of course, Microsoft is the most obvious player, but Oracle, IBM, and any others. But we're not focusing at engineering. And only in recent years, for many companies, it actually started with Corona, when the budgets were more and more tight, that they started also evaluating the options. What are these key spenders? What are these key software spenders? And you could see that up in the top 5 or top 10, you could see that it's Microsoft, it's Oracle, it's IBM, it's SAP, but it's for the engineering companies, for the manufacturers or developers. You could see that there is the Dassault, there is the Siemens, and the purchasing along with the SAM team started to ask, so who are these vendors? Why do we pay so much money? And how can we actually track it? How can we optimize it? That's where OpenLM started to come in for service now.
Right. So I'm going to go quickly back to the chat. We have 2 more questions there. So can it help in adding, upgrading daemons to selected servers with one shot? No. So OpenLM helps with monitoring those daemons, not setting them up. Can it show server daemon performance slowness, like due to high network connection? It can show you if the daemon went down, but not if it was slow. So you'll see periods when it went down, when it was up, and so on. All right. Do you plan to partnership with Snow Software? So
We
not
don't
at the
say
moment.
that. Yeah, it's not, and it's not something to say on the webinar. But we are very proud on our partnership with ServiceNow, and that's where we want to focus our efforts on, because we do believe that we actually really nicely supplement the SEMPRO, and that I personally believe that the SEMPRO will become really big.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it, guys. So if you have any further questions that you missed out, or you want to know something, or you try to implement OpenLM and you weren't able to, or I don't know, anything, you need support, you need help, call us up. We are available, as I said, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. You can go to our website, and let me just share my screen again. I'll show you that. So just go to the OpenLM website. You got About Us and Contact Us. Now there you'll find, first of all, our emails, either sales or support. You can call us up over the phone or email to any of these centers. We got Europe, USA, Israel, Japan, India. So we have different partners and so on. But the best way and the fastest way to get in touch with us is just using this chat. Click the button, ask a question, and in seconds, you'll get an answer. So don't be shy. If you have any questions, any issues, anything, just let us know. All right. And that's
Thank
it.
you, everybody. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks for the amazing questions. Oh, we still have one more. I think we can answer that. We have 3 more minutes. So, Leonardo, should CATIA licenses?
CATIA licenses, yes. We can also monitor CATIA licenses. Oh, I see.
Let's wait. It's still coming.
All right. To see if the license is running but not in use, the agent. Yes. So in order to monitor the idle time for DSLS applications for CATIA, you can monitor that application. You can monitor that idle time of that application. And in order to free the license, then what you can do is run a script. Either just kill the process. It finds that it's idling for too long and then kills the process. Or you can run a custom command for like popping up a message or sending an email or anything, telling the user, hey, you've been idling for too long, please close the application or something of that sort. If we are talking about FlexLM applications, then we can do something called suspend resume, which suspends the application, thus the user is not losing any of his work. And if we're talking about Matlab, SolidWorks, Autodesk, and ArcGIS, then we can do a save and close, where it's a graceful saving of the project and closing the application via the API of the application itself. So yeah, we have options for all different types of applications. It really depends which application you're using. For CATIA, the idle time can be monitored, and based on that idle time, either a script can run or the session will be killed. But the data will be lost, of course. All right. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. I hope to see you on the next webinar. Bye.
Exactly. Same. Bye-bye, everybody.